Good afternoon. I have a update on the final hours of Elena Moore. Lexington, South Carolina. New law enforcement documentation has fundamentally reshaped the timeline surrounding the tragic disappearance and death of local fitness instructor Elena Moore. Recent police incident reports reveal a precise, fast-moving sequence of events on the very day that she vanished, a narrative marked by a discharge from a healthcare facility and a series of final solitary movements through Lexington. The timeline starts on June 11th. Excuse me. I'm still getting over this sore throat thing. I'm sorry. The timeline begins on the afternoon of Thursday, June 11th, when Moore was officially discharged from a local psychiatric facility prior to 2 p.m. Now, in previous reports, they just said that she had recently been at a psychiatric facility. I do not believe that it was stated that the day of her disappearance was the day that she was released, but it has been confirmed that her day that she was discharged was the same day that she disappeared, June 11th. She left the psychiatric facility, like I said, prior to 2 p.m. Because her personal vehicle remained at home with her husband, Brian Slice, transport arrangements were made for a taxi to pick her up from the facility. The ride home was quickly interrupted. Moore requested that the taxi driver stop at the local CVS. According to statements later given to the investigators, Moore walked into the store but never returned to the waiting vehicle. After waiting, the driver went inside the CVS to locate her, but found she had already slipped away unnoticed. Despite vanishing from the taxi, Moore managed to travel to the nearby Planet Fitness on Whiteford Way. Digital logs verify she physically signed into the gym at 6:38 p.m. Her final movements were captured 3 hours later on retail security footage showing her walking completely alone through a neighboring Publix grocery store parking lot at 9:17 p.m., heading directly toward the wooded area where later her body would be discovered. What the time gap they do have, though, is if she was released at approximately 2 p.m. and she had a taxi pick her up from the facility, but yet she didn't arrive at Planet Fitness until 6:38. She was briefly at the CVS. What transpired between her 2 p.m. discharge, being picked up by a taxi, going to CVS, and not arriving at Planet Fitness until 6:38 in the evening? So that is a time gap that we don't have any accounting for. Her missing persons report the following morning, Friday, June 12th, at approximately 9 a.m., Brandon Slice walked into the Lexington Police Department to officially report that his wife was missing. Slice had contacted the facility that she was discharged from to verify that she had indeed been discharged as planned. Slice informed the officers that he was aware of her Thursday afternoon release, but that she never arrived home. Before contacting police, Slice had actively retracted her steps, visiting her frequent stops. His independent search led him to Planet Fitness, where staff confirmed to him that she had checked in prior that evening. Because of his immediate cooperation, proactive searching, and detailed timeline tracking, Lexington police have repeatedly emphasized that her husband is not considered a suspect or a person of interest at this time, nor have they given any indication that he would become a suspect. Right now, we are just awaiting the forensics. As of July of 2026, the investigation into Elena Moore's death remains open, but strictly bound to forensic science. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, and local police are treating this as a death investigation rather than a homicide. A preliminary autopsy conducted by the Lexington County Coroner's Office revealed there were no signs of any internal or external traumatic injury. completely ruling out shooting, stabbing, strangulation, or blunt force trauma. The pathologists are now conducting a thorough review of her extensive medical history and awaiting complete toxicology and tissue sample reports. The Lexington County coroners stated that the deliberate multi-week wait for these reports is a standard protocol to ensure accuracy. No suspects have been named, no foul play has been officially established, and authorities are withholding final conclusions until the toxicology profile is complete. The final hours of Elena Moore. New police reports have completely reshaped the timeline of her disappearance and her death in Lexington. Recent law enforcement documentation reveals a precise, heartbreaking sequence of events starting from the exact afternoon of her release from the healthcare facility. In this update, I broke down her final movements through a local CVS, Planet Fitness check-in, Planet Fitness check-out, and the definite timeline provided by her husband that was reported to the investigators. We also look at the current status of the investigation, the preliminary autopsy findings from the Lexington County Coroner's Office, and why authorities are strictly waiting on toxicology reports before making any final determination. So we don't have any real new information except for the timeline, and that's pretty important information. We still have the big question of that 3.5-4 hour time gap. And also, I still question why her husband would not have called the police or called somebody to check on her on the day that she was being released from the psychiatric facility. I know he is not a suspect, but it just seems odd to me that a spouse would not be concerned on the day that his wife was being released from any kind of a hospital, especially a psychiatric facility. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully the toxicology report will come in soon. I will keep you updated, and until then, have a great evening, stay safe, and PI 56 will check back with you later. Bye-bye.